Let's start the class. Question 1, you have an image and DEM data of a place. Generate a binary image that will show the location of high altitude forest. Given that the DN value of forest is 30 and elevation is greater than 100, is considered as the high altitude. Okay. So this is the question over here. In this question, as you can see, two raster data is given over here. First one is the image and second one is the DEM. In the image, you can find that there are different values that are given over here. But in the question, it is specifically mentioned that the forest value is 30. Okay. Now, what you want in the question, whenever you got such type of spatial analysis question, first thing that you need to do, you need to write down the input data. Okay. So answer is in input, you have two data, image and elevation. Second thing is about the condition, what they are asking. They want a binary image. And in that binary image, where the value will be 1, or where the condition is forest, which is located at high altitude. Okay. So how will you proceed on this one? How will you generate a binary image for this one?
Ma'am, by applying the binary classification.
Okay.
मैम जहाँ पे इमेज 30 है मैम, वहाँ पे 1 1, बाकी सब 0 0 आएगा मैम. एंड डेम डाटा में भी जिस पे मोर देन 100 है उसमें 1 1 आएगा, बाकी सब 0 आएगा.
क्वेश्चन सुन लीजिए, कैसे 0 1 0 1 आ कैसे जाएगा? आप कोई भी चीज, कोई भी वैल्यू लाएंगे तो वो मैजिकली नहीं आ जाएगी ना, जादू से नहीं आएगी. आपको कोई प्रोसीजर बतानी पड़ेगी कि we will perform this particular operation and after performing this operation we are getting a binary image, है ना. इस तरीके से आपको स्टेट करना पड़ेगा. क्या ऑपरेशन यहाँ पे लगेगा?
रिक्लासिफाई करें.
रिक्लासिफिकेशन. ओके. तो रिक्लासिफिकेशन अगर आप करेंगे तो रिक्लासिफिकेशन के साथ में हमेशा आपको कोई रूल एसोसिएट करना पड़ेगा. व्हाट विल बी द रूल?
इसमें हमारे इमेज में रहेगा 30 मीटर्स फॉरेस्ट, मोर देन 30 0, मोर देन 30 is 1 or equal to 30 is 1 and less than 0.
Not more than 30. The rule will be reclassification if value equal to 30 then 1, otherwise 0. Okay? Similarly for the DEM, if the value is greater than 100 then 1, otherwise 0. So this is how you will get a reclassification, and this is how you will get a binary image of land use data as well as of the elevation data. Then after reclassification, what will be the next step?
Ma'am, we will apply the operator.
Yes. The next operation will be the overlay operation by using AND. Okay. So this is how this whole question will be solved. First, reclassification in both the images, and thereafter overlay operation. And whenever you perform overlay, there are so many different methods of performing overlay. So you specifically have to mention which operator you are going to use, and or not, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, what you are going to use. Okay. So this is how this question will be solved. Whenever you got such type of question, always give both the, means you need to give the flow chart as well as you need to give the explanation of that one. Okay. So note down the solution. Then quickly we will go to the next one. Have any doubt you can ask anyone?
मैम एक बार रिक्लासिफाई करके बता दीजिएगा QGIS पे.
क्या दिक्कत है रिक्लासिफाई में?
मैम बाय टेबल कर रहे थे तो मैम वो टेबल समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कैसे किसी एक DN वैल्यू को असाइन करें दूसरे पे.
अगर आपको रिक्लासिफिकेशन बाय टेबल करना है तो आप 0 to 29, है ना, 0 to 29 या 1 to 29 0 लीजिए, 30 पर 1 लीजिए एंड 31 अप टू जितनी भी वैल्यू आपकी जा रही है वहां पर वापस से 0 लीजिए। 3 रो की एंट्री होगी वहां पे। 30
मैम
से कम की वैल्यू, 30 से ज्यादा की वैल्यू सब पे 0 आएगा और 30 पर 1 कर दीजिए।
मिनिमम और मैक्सिमम?
क्या मिनिमम मैक्सिमम?
मैम ऐड रो करने के बाद 2 कॉलम बने। मैम 1 सेकेंड।
मैम यहाँ पर
इसको आराम से अपने जैसे रूल बताया उसके अकॉर्डिंग कर लीजिए। उसके बाद भी अगर डाउट रहता है तो लेबोरेटरी सेशन में पूछेगा, उसमें हम करके दिखा देंगे। अदरवाइज रिक्लासिफिकेशन बाय टेबल होगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी। 3 रो आपको वहां पर ऐड करनी पड़ेगी।
मैम ये मैम स्क्रीन शेयर हो रही है?
मेरे सामने तो मेरी स्क्रीन खुली हुई है। ठीक है।
मैम इसमें कैसे वैल्यू इनपुट करवाएं वो पूछ रहे थे।
आपने लैब नहीं करी है?
मैम की थी, लेकिन मैम आपने उसमें ArcGIS पे बताया था, इसमें ऐसे आ रहा है।
नहीं, लैब तो QGIS पे चलती है। लैब कहाँ ArcGIS पे चलती है? इसको लैब का उसका देखिए रिकॉर्डिंग, लैब में बताया। बाकी इसमें जो आपने खोला था उसी पर जाएंगे, आपने सही खोला हुआ था, उस पर आपको वैल्यूज देनी पड़ेगी। मिनिमम 0, मैक्सिमम 29। ठीक है।
ओ, ओ, ओके मैम।
ऐड ड्रॉ करिए, मिनिमम 0, मैक्सिमम 29। उसमें देख लीजिएगा रेंज कैसे आती है।
ठीक है मैम।
ठीक है। इस तरीके से आप इसमें अलग अलग कैटेगरीज देंगे।
थैंक यू मैम।
Next question. Given dem data is in feet, convert it from feet to meter.
Ma'am, screen is not shared, I think. Coming.
Okay. So now it must be visible. In this particular question, the dem data is given in feet and you need to convert it from feet up to meter. And the conversion factor from feet to meter conversion is 0.0348. So what
Ma'am,
will you, yes?
ma'am, field calculator, we select dem data, then multiply with 0.3048.
The answer is like this. First, we will generate a raster with the value 0.3048, and thereafter by using overlay operation and by using the multiplication operator in the output, we will get the data set, again the elevation data set, but in this case, instead of feet, it is get converted into meters. Let's go to the next question. In this question, you have two images. One image is of the year 2007 and another image of the year 2017. Now the question says, identify the places in the image where changes have been occurred from the year 2007 up to 2017.
There also we can apply reclassification operation. Where there is a change in numbers, there we apply 0.
Wait. Oh. Start. Means what will be the first step?
A reclassification operation, ma'am. There will.
How will you apply reclassification? What will be the rule?
In that reclassification, where there is a same numbers, then we put as 1.
This is what I am trying to tell you repeatedly. There is no way. How will you find that there is a change in number or not?
Ma'am, we will use difference operation.
Yes. You cannot say, means visually I am seeing this thing that there is a change. No, you cannot say that thing. Inside the system, inside the software, you have to perform this thing. In that case, we cannot say that we are able to see that there is a change or there is a no change. How we will identify whether there is any change or not? Okay. For that purpose, what you have to do, you have to perform the overlay analysis. Whenever the question involves more than one layer, automatically you must know that overlay is going to happen over there. In this question also, first of all, overlay will be done. Difference operator will be used. So by this way, we will get, by performing the raster overlay, you will get this particular output. And thereafter, you will perform the reclassification. In reclassification, you have to check if there is value 0, then no change. If the value is other than 0, 1 will be assigned and it will denote all those places where changes have been occurred. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Can we convert each of these value, let's say 30 to, it is in decimal, so we can convert in binary first, and then we can use AND operator. If it is 0, if every digit matches, then it is same, or else it is different.
Repeat your solution.
Ma'am, like it is given 30, it is in decimal, we can change it into binary.
How will you convert it into binary? What will be the rule? If you are doing the binary conversion, there must be some rule. On the basis of that, you will make a binary image. What will be the rule?
Ma'am, we can take each value separately, construct a new this vector and raster, and then again do it.
No, this is what I am asking. What will be the rule? If you have to perform the reclassification as you are suggesting that you want to convert the original image first into the binary image, it means that you want to perform the reclassification over there. Whenever you are doing the image reclassification, you have to give a rule. What will be rule at that place? Now I'm moving to the next question. And this one is a little bit complicated. Till now, the first three questions were based on the raster analysis. This one is based on the vector analysis. Okay. In this question, there is a point data. You have a point coverage of nest location along the river Ganga. So basically it is providing us a point data showing the location of nest. Thereafter, what they are asking, outline the GIS analysis tools that you would use to select all those nests that are at least 1 kilometer away from any other nest. So among all the nests, suppose you have 20 nests. Among all those 20 points, you want to identify all those points who do not have any other point within 1 kilometer range. Okay, how will you do this thing? Think about it quickly, then we will see the solution. Okay, then, so anybody has a solution for this question?
Ma'am, we will go to vector, then analysis tool, and then distance
Don't give
matrix.
solution. No. Don't give the solution in the form of software. This one is a general question. Okay. This one is a general GIS analysis question, not about the software question that how you are going to perform it on a software. So inform what type of operations that you are planning to perform on this question. Yes.
Ma'am, using SQL we can do.
By using the SQL, how?
Ma'am, we will take a table. We will join with itself only, and
Ma'am, we can use buffer.
How?
Around all the points, a buffer of 1000 meter will be created, and if all the buffers which are intersecting with each other, it means they are indicating that they are within 1 kilometer of range, and rest which are not intersecting with each other, they will be farther from means more than 1 kilometer distance.
Yes, very good, but there is still some mistake in this one. Think again.
But ma'am, here our point of concentration is selecting only those points which are away from 1 kilometer, no?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. So those which will be intersecting, they will be ignored, or you can say they will not be taken into consideration. Rest will be taken into consideration.
There is still some mistake.
Ma'am, first we have to generate the buffer of 1 kilometer, and then we have to perform the difference of it.
Sorry, your audio is not clear.
Ma'am, we have to generate 1 kilometer.
Yes, here your audio is not clear to me.
Now it is clear.
There's a lot of background noise.
One minute. Now it is clear, ma'am?
Yes, now it's clear.
Ma'am, we have to generate the 1 kilometer buffer first.
Yes.
And then we have to use the difference operator.
Okay, then?
Then after using the difference operator, we get the point which is away from the 1 kilometer. Only those points we will get it.
I'm not sure about your solution. Take 1 kilometer. If you perform the difference, then what will happen? So there I am doubtful for a solution because I could not visualize the output. If you are taking 1 kilometer buffer around a point and thereafter you are performing a difference operation, then what? And the difference operation between which means one will be the buffer layer, what will be the another layer? The previous solution was quite correct. I think so it was by Vibham, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The solution of Vibham is almost correct, but not completely correct. Anyone else? Okay, I am hinting it. What will be the buffer size? You are saying 1 kilometer buffer. Think about it. Is it correct? You know, whenever there is a question, always think twice what will be the buffer distance, and automatically jump into the 1 kilometer or any other value, it will make the solution incorrect. Yes, somebody was answering.
500 meter.
Yes, why?
Because if we are generating buffer around each point of 500 meter, then from 2.500 meter means sum equals to 1 kilometer. So it will if we generate 1 kilometer buffer and suppose there are 2 points, then it will generate a 2 kilometer distance. Now it is already 1 kilometer around means point that from center to last point means at the periphery.
Yeah, correct. Good.
Ma'am, one question.
Yeah.
Will this always be a, you can say, a diameter? Because here always distance will be written in the linear distance, like measuring in one direction. So when we are using buffer, so that will always be a, you can say, a diameter, means will this corresponding to a diameter?
Corresponding to the radius.
Yes, means that will always be considered from the center of any point.
Yeah, from whichever entity you are creating a buffer, the radius of that much will be taken.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So this is what the solution is. First of all, around the point, we need to create a buffer, and buffer will be created of 500 meter. So as it was already correctly answered, that if you take the 1 kilometer distance between 2 points, the effective distance, if you take a buffer of 1 kilometer between around the point, the effective distance will be 2 kilometer. And if you take 500 meter, the effective distance is 1 kilometer. What I'm trying to say is, let's first see the solution, then I will explain further. First of all, 500 meter buffers are created around the point data. Thereafter, we check whether the buffers are overlaid or not. How? We can perform the dissolve operation over here, or we can check the area of the buffer. If the area is equal to pi r square, in that case, there is no overlapping between the buffers and area will be equal to pi r square. But if the area is more than pi r square or it is not equal to pi r square, it means that the size of the buffer is not circle. Okay, so this is how the full complete circle buffers are selected, and thereafter the intersection will be performed between the point data and the polygon data. so that finally you will get all those points which are satisfying the condition. Like suppose this is one circle. Okay, the circle is showing the, or I will show it on the software. You know, if I create around the point data, I am taking a point data, and around the point data, if I take the buffer of 500 meter, okay, you can see what is happening over here. Let's see what's happening. You can see those points which are situated for more than 1 kilometer, they are making a perfect circle. But see what is happening to the other points. You know, see their buffer, how their buffers are created. So basically, if you take, if I create a buffer of 500 meter, I will perform a dissolve over here. See, this will give you a more clear impression of what I'm trying to say. That if you create a buffer of 500 meter and if it is forming a perfect circle around a point, okay, then the area of this circle will be equal to pi r square. But for the rest of the points, you can see how the buffer are created. The size of the buffer is more than pi r square. Okay, so this is what we are basically trying to do over here. That first of all, around the point, a buffer of 500 meter are created, and thereafter, if any two points which are located at a distance of 1 kilometer or more, what will happen? Suppose this one is located at the if these two points are located, what will be the, at the distance of 1 kilometer, you can see 500 meter of this one, 500 meter of another one. So the effective distance between these 2 points will be 1 kilometer. That's why we are not taking a buffer of 1 kilometer. Instead of that, we are taking a buffer of 500 meter. Thereafter, if the distance is of 1 kilometer, as it is shown in this particular two circle, or more than 1 kilometer, in that case, the area will be equal to how much? The area of any circle, which is pi r square. But if the distance is less than 1 kilometer, what will happen? As you can see on the screen, they will get overlapped together like this way. In this case, their area will become more than pi r square. Okay. So I hope this solution is clear to everyone.
Ma'am, after this dissolve operation, what will you apply?
You have to do the intersection.
Okay.
You have to do the not the intersection. First of all, the reselection is done on the basis of area. Okay, means this attribute based query will be taken place on the basis of area. If the area is pi r square, means we have to select all those polygons whose area is equal to pi r square. Otherwise, we have to discard those polygons. Any other question? Usually there are a lot of questions after this problem. If anybody has any problem, you can ask.
यस मैम। मैम वो आपने जो डिसॉल्व वाला बताया मैम, वो थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आया।
देखिए, डिसॉल्व को यहाँ पर करना जरूरी नहीं। देखिए, सबसे पहले क्या यहाँ पर करने की कोशिश करी जा रही है, जैसे यहाँ पर सर्किल में बता रहे हैं कि आपको उन सभी बफर को अलग करना है जो आपस में ओवरलैप कर रहे हैं, है ना। ओवरलैप क्यों हम ऐसा करना चाह रहे हैं? क्योंकि ओवरलैप करने का मतलब है कि उनके बीच की दूरी, उन पॉइंट्स के बीच की दूरी 1 किलोमीटर से कम की है, तभी वो आपस में जाकर के ओवरलैप हो जा रहे हैं, अदरवाइज ओवरलैप नहीं होंगे। इस चीज को निकालने के लिए ही आगे की बात करी जा रही है कि सबसे पहले हम लोग ने पॉइंट के चारों ओर 500 मीटर का बफर ड्रॉ कर लिया। पॉइंट के अराउंड बफर जैसा सब जानते हैं वो एक सर्कुलर फॉर्म में बनता है ना, तो सर्किल के फॉर्म में बन गया। अगर एक पॉइंट के 1 किलोमीटर की रेंज में कोई दूसरा पॉइंट नहीं होगा तो उसका जो बफर बनेगा, बफर का जो सर्किल बनेगा वो परफेक्ट सर्किल बन जाएगा। लेकिन सोचो अगर आप ऐसे कि एक पॉइंट के नजदीक में 1 किलोमीटर की कम दूरी पे कोई दूसरा पॉइंट एग्जिस्ट करता है तो क्या होगा, उसका बना हुआ सर्किल और दूसरे पॉइंट का बना हुआ सर्किल मींस दोनों का बने हुए बफर्स जो होंगे वो आपस में ओवरलैप करने लगेंगे। ठीक है, यहाँ पर अब हम क्या करना चाह रहे हैं, हम ये करना चाहते हैं कि जिसका परफेक्ट सर्किल है वो अलग हो जाए और जिसका परफेक्ट सर्किल नहीं है, मतलब जहां पर ओवरलैपिंग हो रही है, उसको हम अलग करते हैं। इस अलग करने का एक क्राइटेरिया क्या हो सकता है, एरिया हो सकता है ना, कि अगर एरिया पाई आर स्क्वायर के बराबर है, जो किसी भी सर्किल का एक एरिया होता है, उसका एक नॉर्मल फॉर्मूला है पाई आर स्क्वायर, वो कितना हो, अगर किसी भी बफर का एरिया पाई आर स्क्वायर के बराबर है तो इसका मतलब है कि वो परफेक्ट सर्किल है। अगर पाई आर स्क्वायर के बराबर नहीं है तो वो परफेक्ट सर्किल नहीं है। इसी कारण से यहाँ पर देखिए रीसेलेक्ट कराया जा रहा है, रीसेलेक्ट एरिया। और अगर पाई आर स्क्वायर के हिसाब से 500 मीटर रेडियस रखते हुए अगर आप एरिया निकालेंगे तो कितना आएगा, 3.14 मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 500 मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 500 आ रहा है 7,000 सॉरी यस 7,85,000। और अगर ये तो अप्रोक्सीमेशन कर दिया, अगर 22 से निकालें
मैम 7,85,398.16।
तो ये इतना वैल्यू यहाँ पर पाई आर स्क्वायर के हिसाब से आ जाएगा। तो अगर ये वाला एरिया के बराबर है तो वो परफेक्ट सर्किल आ रहा है, अगर एरिया के बराबर नहीं है तो इसका मतलब है वहां पर ओवरलैप हो रहा है। ठीक है, इसके बाद में आखिरी स्टेप में इंटरसेक्शन ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म करना जरूरी है, क्योंकि अगर इंटरसेक्शन ऑपरेशन नहीं करोगे तो क्या होगा, आपको आउटपुट क्या मिल रहा है, अभी तो आपको पॉलीगन आउटपुट में मिल रहा है, आपको अभी डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट नहीं मिला। अब आप पॉइंट इन पॉलीगन ओवरले एनालिसिस करेंगे तब जाकर के आपको आउटपुट में क्या मिलेगा। अगर एक लेयर पॉलीगन है, एक लेयर पॉइंट है, अगर आप लोग को ध्यान होगा मेट्रोलॉजिकल स्टेशन और फॉरेस्ट नॉन फॉरेस्ट एरिया का एग्जाम्पल आप लोग को प्रीवियस टर्न पे कराया गया था, वही चीज यहाँ पे बताई जा रही है। पॉइंट और पॉलीगन के बीच में ओवरले कराएंगे तब जाकर के फाइनली आउटपुट में आपको पॉइंट डेटा नेस्ट का मिल पाएगा। अब क्लियर है, अभी भी कोई डाउट है तो पूछिए।
मैम पॉइंट इन पॉलीगन का ओवरले कराएंगे तो मैम सारे पॉइंट्स जो फर्स्ट हमारी जो पहली लेयर है उसमें थे वही पॉइंट्स तो मैम बफर में भी बने, तब तो सारे पॉइंट इंटरसेक्ट हो जाएंगे।
नहीं, यहाँ पर देखिए रीसेलेक्ट कर दे रहे हैं ना, रीसेलेक्ट करके हम केवल फुल बफर को ले रहे हैं, बाकी बफर्स को डिस्कार्ड करा दे रहे हैं, हटा दे रहे हैं।
अच्छा ओके मैम।
तो हमको सारे बफर ना मिल करके केवल जो परफेक्ट सर्किल वाले बफर हैं वो मिलेंगे। इस कारण से आपको जब इंटरसेक्शन होगा तो सारे पॉइंट ना मिल करके केवल वही पॉइंट मिलेंगे जो इन परफेक्ट सर्कल्स के अंदर फॉल कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, और कोई भी एक और कोई स्टूडेंट कोई क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे थे? और कोई क्वेश्चन है? ओके देन, और कोई क्वेश्चन हमें नहीं मिल रहा है। इसको थोड़ा और इस सोल्यूशन को आप लोग भी सोचिएगा, अगर उसके बाद भी अगर आप लोग को कोई डाउट रहता है तो इसको फ्राइडे के टर्न पर इसको आगे करेंगे। तो अभी 10 मिनट्स का ब्रेक दे रहे हैं और ब्रेक के बाद में हम लोग वापस से लास्ट टर्न पे हमारा इंटरपोलेशन स्टार्ट हो गया था, इंटरपोलेशन के साथ में इस लेक्चर को कंटिन्यू करेंगे। सो 10 मिनट्स ब्रेक। So let's start the class. So in the previous term, we have started the discussion about the interpolation. Okay. So why is it possible to perform the interpolation in spatial data? Which property was useful over here of spatial data? Yes, anyone? Because of which property of spatial data that we say that interpolation is possible?
Ma'am, X, Y and Z values.
Sorry? X, Y and
Z value.
X, Y and Z value?
Means X latitude longitude plus Z value any parameter.
Okay, no. This is what
Attribute data.
Sorry, again.
Attribute data.
What attribute data?
Like जो डेटा वेक्टर डेटा में मैम जो उसका मैग्नीट्यूड रिप्रेजेंट करता है.
हाँ, आगे बताइए. मैग्नीट्यूड क्या रिप्रेजेंट करता है?
मैम जो डेटा उसका मैग्नीट्यूड रिप्रेजेंट करता है उससे ये पॉसिबल होता है मैम इंटरपोलेशन.
ये मैग्नीट्यूड का क्या मतलब है?
मैम जैसे वेक्टर डेटा में लाइक एक मैम उसका कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स बताता है, एक उसका मैग्नीट्यूड.
फिर वही बात, मैग्नीट्यूड क्या होता है?
Ma'am, please one more time, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I will repeat the question, but first is what is magnitude? कौन आंसर कर रहे थे?
कृष्ण तिवारी.
या कृष्ण कुमार, बताइए मैग्नीट्यूड से क्या समझ रहे हैं या क्या समझाना चाह रहे हैं आप?
मैम मैग्नीट्यूड इन सेंस मैम उसका न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू.
किसका न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू?
मैम जो वेक्टर डेटा है.
वेक्टर डेटा का न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू क्या होगा? कृष्ण कुमार, मुझे आपका आंसर नहीं समझ में आ रहा है कि वेक्टर डेटा का मैग्नीट्यूड क्या होगा या उसका वैल्यू क्या होगा. प्रोबेबली आप सही से टर्म्स बता नहीं रहे हैं. वेक्टर डेटा को कोई आप इन जनरल नहीं कह सकते कि उसका कोई मतलब मैग्नीट्यूड नहीं हो सकता. आप उसका लोकेशन बोल सकते हैं कि उसका क्या पोजीशन है, उसका एक्स वाई जी कोऑर्डिनेट और लैटिट्यूड लॉन्गिट्यूड एलिवेशन हो सकता है जो उसका स्पेशल डेटा रिप्रेजेंट करता है. एट्रीब्यूट डेटा एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक को रिप्रेजेंट करता है तो कुछ भी हो सकता है ना. उसका एलिवेशन हो सकता है, वहां का ओजोन कंसंट्रेशन हो सकता है, उस जगह का नाम हो सकता है, कोई भी इस तरीके का जो उसका बिहेवियर, उसका जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक जो दिखा है वो उसका एट्रीब्यूट डेटा होता है. यहाँ पर क्वेश्चन जो पूछा जा रहा है वो ये है कि स्पेशल डेटा की किस प्रॉपर्टी के कारण हम इंटरपोलेशन परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं.
मैम कंटिन्यूअस इन नेचर के कारण.
ये कौन सी प्रॉपर्टी होती है? सब जनरल आंसर कुछ कुछ एक एक शब्द कहीं कहीं से याद है, आप लोग को सही टर्म अभी नहीं याद है. इट्स स्पेशल ऑटो कोरिलेशन प्रॉपर्टी. ओके, in the last turn, towards the ending of the lecture, we have discussed about the spatial autocorrelation property, about the Tobler's law of geography. And one of the laws states that everything is related to every other thing, but nearby things are more related than the distant thing. This is called the autocorrelation property in spatial data. Means spatial data are not independent from each other. Like if I measure the elevation of nearby places will be similar to each other. If I measure the pollution will be similar to the nearby places. Okay. So this is the autocorrelation property that exists in the spatial data. And this is the basis of performing the interpolation, if the values are independent from each other, like the random events like tossing of a coin or drawing anything from a bag, something like that. So if the events are independent from each other, if the elevation value of every position is independent from the previous one, in that case, we cannot perform the interpolation over there. So interpolation is possible because of the autocorrelation property in the spatial data. And when we are doing the interpolation, there are two steps. First, we need to collect the control point. Control point are those points whose values are known. And then after that, we have to perform the interpolation. Okay. So we start with the sampling procedure. Sampling is very important. Sampling, you can think it's just like you have done the georeferencing. All of you have seen the georeferencing procedure, whether it is in the laboratory session or whether in the lecture session. In both the sessions, we have seen the georeferencing process. So what was happening in the georeferencing? That first we have to collect the ground control point, GCPs over there. So what we were doing, we were basically doing the sampling at that place. In interpolation, the sampling need to be done. Whatever property we are trying to measure, whether it is elevation, temperature, rainfall, pollution, anything, whatever we are trying to measure, we have to take that thing from some of the points. So basically what we have to do, we have to do the sampling. Whenever the sampling is done, we have to make sure that this whole process should be correct, because the output solely depend upon the sampling data. Okay, so if we are not doing sampling correctly, if there are errors in the sampling, if the values are not taken properly at this time, the output which will be produced by the interpolation procedure will not be correct. As it is told to you that there is an autocorrelation property in spatial data, the nearby things will be related to each other. Therefore, whenever the sampling is done, it should be very well distributed throughout the region. If the samples are taken from the nearby place, suppose I do not want to work hard on the field, I do not want to take all the I do not want to go all the places. If I start taking all the values from nearby locations, then what will happen? The variability in the data set will not get captured at that time. That's why sampling is very important, should be taken in a well distributed manner. Sufficient number of samples should be taken. Okay, it is not possible to collect the data from every location because of the time constraint, because of the budget constraint. Therefore, sampling should be planned in a very proper manner. Now, sampling could be done in a different ways, like there can be systematic sampling, like samples could get collected at a regular interval. As it is shown in this figure, you can see the points are get collected at a regular interval. In this case, there will be a proper distribution. The data set will be well dispersed. But if there is any change at a particular area, it may not be sampled. So this is one of the systematic sampling. It is not always possible to reach each and every location which is marked by the systematic sampling. Another method is random sampling. Okay, most of the time we go for the random sampling. See what is happening over here. If you see the figure, you will find that the points are randomly placed. Because of this randomness, there will be less bias in the data collection. Okay. So this is the random sampling. Another method is cluster sampling, that if you go at a particular location, then you will collect the nearby data also. Okay, this is the cluster sampling. So with the help of this one, the travel time will be less and more sample will get collected. Another one is adaptive sampling. This is very useful method of sampling. Adaptive sampling means where there is more variability, more data will get collected. If there is less variability, like suppose there is a flat surface at a location, then if you are sampling the elevation, lesser value could be taken at that place. If there is a slope at any place, more sample could be collected at that position. But if you have to perform the adaptive sampling, the operator must have a good knowledge of the terrain. Only then the adaptive sampling could be planned and can be performed. Once the sampling is done, we have to perform the interpolation. Now there are two terms, interpolation and extrapolation. Both are related to each other. There is a small difference. See what is the difference? It is given over here. So what is happening? In case of interpolation, the values will be interpolated or values will be estimated only within the convex hull. What is convex hull? Convex hull is the convex polygon which is drawn around a sample or a subset of points. Okay. So if we are predicting the value inside the convex hull, then it is called the interpolation. Outside the convex hull, then it is called the extrapolation. Okay. Let's see the classification of interpolation method. I'm just reading out this section, and later on when we will discuss each of the interpolation method, I will describe all these things more clearly. First is local or global. Local or global means if a single mathematical function is used for all the observed data set, okay, then it is called the global interpolation. If a subset of the points is used, then it is called a local interpolation. Exact or approximate. Exact means if the output honors all the data points. Approximate if the output does not honor some of the data points. Then there can be a gradual or abrupt. Gradual means if there is a gradual change in the value along the boundary position. If there is a sudden change in the value, then it is the abrupt. Deterministic or stochastic. Deterministic means if a mathematical function is used, okay, in that case it is a deterministic. If we are considering some probability also in the data set, then it is the stochastic model. So local or global? Global interpolation method apply a single mathematical function to all observed data points and generally produce smooth surfaces. Local methods apply a single mathematical function repeatedly to small subsets of the total set of observed data points and then link these regional data surfaces to create a composite surface covering the whole study area. Next, exact or approximate. Exact methods of point interpolation honors all the observed data points for which data are available. This means that the surface produced passes exactly through the observed data points and must not smooth or alter their values. Exact methods are most appropriate method when there is a high degree of variability attached to the measurements made at the observed data point. Approximate method of interpolation do not have to honor the observed data point, but can smooth or alter them to fit a general trend. Approximate method are more appropriate where there is a degree of uncertainty surrounding the measurements made at the sample points. Gradual and abrupt interpolation methods are distinguished by the continuity of the surface produced. Gradual methods produce a smooth surface between sample points, whereas abrupt methods produce surfaces with a stepped appearance. Terrain model may require both methods as it may be necessary to reproduce both gradual changes between observed points. For example, in rolling terrain, and abrupt changes where cliffs, ridges, and valleys occur. Deterministic or stochastic methods. Deterministic method of interpolation can be used when there is a sufficient knowledge about the geographical surface being modeled to allow its character to be described as a mathematical function. Unfortunately, this is rarely the case of surfaces used to represent real-world features. To handle uncertainty, stochastic models are used to incorporate random variation in the interpolated surface. So there are the different methods of interpolation. Before starting them, we need to learn about the Delaunay's triangulation. Okay. What is Delaunay's triangulation? Suppose if you have a set of points, okay, if you have a set of random points, open this one. Okay. Now on the screen you can see that there are some of the random points that are located inside the California. Now if you want to create a triangle around them that will connect each of the point to the nearest point, there are so many different ways through which you can create a triangle from a given set of points. Okay. For this purpose, there is an algorithm called Delaunay's triangulation method or Delaunay's algorithm, through which the triangles could be created around a given set of points. Okay. This Delaunay's triangulation is very useful because the result is used in several interpolation techniques. Okay. So Delaunay triangulation is unique. Okay. Then the edges of the triangulation form the convex hull of means set of points. Like there is a set of points. In this example, you can see that there are a set of points over here. So what will happen when you create a Delaunay's triangulation? The outer points will create a convex hull. Next, straight lines do not cross each other. Means if you draw any of the triangle, the lines will not intersect each other. Means none of the triangle will overlap. So straight line that do not cross each other are drawn from exterior points to the point on the boundary of the convex hull to each other. This divides the convex hull into a set of polygons which are then divided into triangle by drawing more lines between the vertices of the polygon. The circumference of the circle contains no member of any point. Means if you create a circumference, then within the circle which is created around the, if you create a circumcircle of a triangle, within that circle there will be no point. Okay. The triangles in a Delaunay's triangulation are best possible with respect to the regularity and closest to the equilateral triangle. I will try to create this one. I have to check. Just wait. Okay, I have to search that tool. But as there is a tool through which you can create that thing. Search that one. Okay, I will show you that thing in the next turn. So this is like this, that there will be a set of points. So with the help of Delaunay's triangulation, triangles will get created in this manner. Okay. Now let's see different methods of interpolation. First, I'm starting with the IDW. This is the very basic, very starting point of interpolation. See how the interpolated surface will be created over here. First, I'm showing you this one. And then I will tell you about the detail. Like here, see, I'm using the interpolation method over here. You can see I'm using IDW over here, inverse distance weighing method. And in the source data, I'm taking this one, and I'm taking elevation information. Okay, so I will perform the interpolation on the elevation data. See what will happen next. I have set the power over here of the IDW as 2. You can modify this power. Then next. Finish. Let's do it. Yes. Now you can see the whole data over here. Yes. Here you can see that our interpolated surface have been created, and this one has been done on the basis of the point which are sampled over here. This is what we are doing. We are doing an IDW, inverse distance weighing interpolation. Here, the value for each of the position is calculated. You can see the points are showing only those places where the actual sample have been collected, isn't it? The height has been measured only at this particular point, not around the whole California state. But by using the interpolation technique, what I have done, I have created a continuous surface. I have created a surface which carries the elevation value at each and every position of California. Which method I have used for this purpose? It is inverse distance weighing method that I have used over here. Okay. How this method works? Inverse distance weighing function consider all the sample point. Like suppose if it has to compute a value at a particular point, in that case, it will consider all the sample points. In this case, there are total 167. Okay, there are total 167 points on which elevation have been taken. So by considering all the 167 point, a continuous surface has been produced. So when a continuous surface is produced, there must be certain formula, isn't it? Like in the georeferencing, you have learned affine transformation. There was one function over there. By putting the value, you were able to obtain the latitude longitude value, isn't it? So here also there must be some formula on the basis of which the elevation value is computed for every location. And what is the formula? Note down this formula. It is given over here. Zx equal to summation of Wi Zi divided by summation of Wi. Write down this formula in your copy. Now, if you see this formula, for every point, Zi is showing the value of sample point. The sample point is multiplied by some weight. What is the weight? It is 1 upon d square, where d is the distance. Okay. Suppose if you take this example, this one is the location for which we have to compute the elevation. Okay. So the distance, these orange color cross are showing the position of sample point. So for each of the sample point, the distance will be computed, this d value will be computed, and the value, the elevation value of each of the point will be multiplied by the weight. What is the weight? Weight is 1 upon d, and any power to d, like in this one it is 1 upon d square. So this is how the weighing is given, and a weighted average is taken over here, isn't it? A weighted mean is computed, where weight is what? Weight is inverse of distance. What is the meaning of inverse of distance? If a point which is located far away from the sample, from the computed location, then it will have a lesser effect. And if a point is located very close to the computed location, in that case, it will have more effect. Why? Because weight is given in the inverse of distance. Okay. So I hope this one is clear to everyone, how the inverse distance weighing is computing the value at any of the location. ठीक है, तो यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, किसी भी पॉइंट का अगर आपको वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करना है तो सैंपल पॉइंट से दूरी कंसीडर करी जा रही है. जितना दूरी होगा, जितना डिस्टेंस होगा, उसी के हिसाब से वेट मिलता है. अब वेट का वैल्यू कुछ भी हो सकता है, 1/d भी हो सकता है, 1/d स्क्वायर भी हो सकता है, 1/d क्यूब भी हो सकता है. अभी आपको जब सॉफ्टवेयर पे करके दिखा रहे थे, वहां पे दिखाया था कि वहां पर पावर हमने 2 सेट करी है. हम पावर को मॉडिफाई भी कर सकते हैं. आप पावर जितना बढ़ाते जाएंगे, क्या असर आएगा रिजल्ट पर? अगर सपोज हमने 1/d रेज टू द पावर 10 ले लिया, क्या अंतर आएगा रिजल्ट पे?
वेट कम हो जाएगा.
हाँ, तो कंप्यूटेड वैल्यू पे क्या डिफरेंस आएगा?
Objects at larger distance will be negligible, will not be counted.
करेक्ट. तो जितना ज्यादा अगर आप पावर लेंगे, इसका मतलब है कि दूर पे रखे हुए सैंपल, डिस्टेंटली लोकेटेड पॉइंट्स जो होंगे, उसका इम्पैक्ट कम होता जाएगा. ठीक है, जैसे जैसे आप डी की वैल्यू को, डी के पावर की वैल्यू को आप जैसे जैसे बढ़ाते जाओगे, उसका इम्पैक्ट वहां पर कम होता जाएगा. कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल नहीं है, बट स्टिल यहाँ पर डी स्क्वायर वैल्यू को ज्यादातर लिया जाता है. ठीक है, और याद रखिए, आप जैसे जैसे यहाँ पर लिखा है, there are various ways of defining the weight, but the option most often employed is to compute them as the inverse squares of distances. This means that the weight given to a point drop by a factor of 4 when the distance to the point doubles, or by a factor of 9 when the distance triple. अच्छा, अब इसके बाद में वहां हमने क्लासिफिकेशन पढ़ा था, अलग अलग 4 तरीके का. उसमें पहला क्लासिफिकेशन देखते हैं. ये लोकल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है कि ग्लोबल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है? आंसर क्या होगा? लोकल मेथड ऑफ नहीं, इट इज अ ग्लोबल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पर सभी पॉइंट को एक साथ कंसीडर करते हुए एक मैथमेटिकल फॉर्मूला लग रहा है. ठीक है, इस कारण से IDW जो होता है वो, इसमें कहाँ लिखा है, इसमें लिखा नहीं है, बट इट इज अ ग्लोबल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन, क्योंकि इसमें सिंगल मैथमेटिकल फॉर्मूला लगा करके कंप्लीट पॉइंट्स को कंसीडर किया जाता है. सेकेंड वाज एग्जैक्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन. पहला हो गया लोकल और ग्लोबल, दूसरा हो गया एग्जैक्ट और अप्रोक्सीमेट. ठीक है, यहाँ पर जो भी सरफेस बनेगी, इसमें क्योंकि सभी डेटा पॉइंट को कंसीडर किया जा रहा है. अच्छा, एक और चीज, जहां पर सैंपल लिया जा चुका है, वहां पर अगर वैल्यू कंप्यूट करी जाएगी तो क्या होगा? सैंपल लोकेशन यहाँ पर ली गई है, जिस जगह पर सैंपलिंग करी गई है, अगर वहीं पर हम कंप्यूट करेंगे, 0 होगा.
डिस्टेंस खुद से तो 0 होगी.
हाँ, आउटपुट क्या होगा?
अनकम्प्यूटेबल हो जाएगा।
वेट जो होगा उस लोकेशन पर डिस्टेंस 0 होने के कारण इनफाइनाइट वेट उस पर्टिकुलर लोकेशन पे वैल्यू को मिल जाएगा। इससे जो आउटपुट आता है वो सेम वही आ जाता है, जो वहां पर सैंपल वैल्यू होती है वही वहां पर कंप्यूटेड वैल्यू हो जाती है। क्यों ऐसा है? क्योंकि वहां पे इनफाइनाइट वेट असाइन हो जाता है। तो ये कई बार इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में प्रॉब्लम का भी कारण बनता है, क्योंकि जैसे ही आप बताते हैं कि 1/0 विच इज इन्फिनिटी, तो ये कई बार इसको टैकल कराना पड़ता है कि आप सॉफ्टवेयर में 0 वैल्यू डिवीजन बाय 0 कराना पॉसिबल नहीं होता। तो वो अलग चीज है कि वो कंप्यूटेशन में कैसे, कोडिंग में कैसे उसको सॉल्व किया जा रहा है। बट द थिंग इज, अगर सैंपल लोकेशन पे वैल्यू को कंप्यूट किया जाएगा तो वही सेम वैल्यू जो सैम्पलिंग की है वो आ जाएगी। इस कारण से ये जितने भी सैंपल पॉइंट्स है उनको ऑनर करता है। इस कारण से ये एग्जैक्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है। नेक्स्ट वन, ये एब्रप्ट मेथड है कि ग्रेजुअल मेथड है? अंतर देखिए इसके रिजल्ट में आपको क्लियर हो जाएगा। देखिए यहाँ पर आप देखते हैं कि वैल्यूज जो है ऑल ऑफ अ सडन चेंज नहीं हो रही है। ठीक है, वैल्यूज जो है वो ग्रेजुअली इंक्रीज होती हुई दिख रही हैं आपको। देखिए यहाँ से अगर आप मूव करेंगे धीमे धीमे करके, शेड्स बदल रहे हैं, येलो, ऑरेंज, लाइट रेड, डार्क रेड, इस तरीके से करके ग्रेजुअल चेंज आपको आउटपुट में दिख रहा है। इस कारण से IDW एक ग्रेजुअल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन, इसमें ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है कि बाउंड्री के बाद एब्रप्टली वैल्यू सडनली चेंज हो जा रही है। IDW बहुत ज्यादा यूज में आने वाला इंटरपोलेशन मेथड है। क्यों? क्योंकि इसको कोड करना बहुत सिंपल होता है। सिंपल एक वेटेड एवरेज यहाँ पर लिया जा रहा है, ये इसका एक प्लस पॉइंट होता है कि इसको कोड करना इजी होता है। नेगेटिव उसमें देखा जाए या प्रॉब्लम अगर इसमें हम लोग देखें क्या आती है, इसमें हर एक पॉइंट भले ही बहुत कम अंतर डाले लेकिन जितने भी दूर का पॉइंट होगा वो भी कुछ ना कुछ इम्पैक्ट डालेगा कंप्यूटेड पॉइंट पर, है ना। इस कारण से इसमें सभी पॉइंट चाहे वो कितने भी डिस्टेंस पे हो कंप्यूटेड वैल्यू पर असर डालते हैं। तो ये कई बार ये बोला जाता है कि ये बहुत दूर का भी सैंपल है जो एक्शन में कोई अंतर नहीं डाल रहा है, पर IDW पे कंप्यूटेशन के दौरान वो कुछ ना कुछ इफेक्ट डालता है। तो ये पहला मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन आपने देखा, फर्स्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन व्हिच इज IDW, इनवर्स डिस्टेंस वेइंग मेथड। ठीक है, अगला इसमें दिखाते हैं एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग मेथड जो है थिसन पॉलीगन। थिसन पॉलीगन को हम पहले रीड आउट कर रहे हैं, फिर उसके बाद में आपको दिखाते हैं कि हो क्या रहा है। So Thyssen polygons was suggested by Thyssen as a way of interpolating rainfall estimates from few rain gauges to obtain estimates at other locations where rainfall had not been measured. The method is very simple. To estimate rainfall at any point, like the rainfall measured at the closest gauge, this leads to a map in which rainfall is constant within polygons surrounding each gauge and changes sharply as polygon boundaries are crossed. They are also known as Voronoi or Dirichlet polygons. They have many other uses besides spatial interpolation, like Thyssen polygon can be used to estimate the trade areas of each of a set of retail stores or shopping centers. They are used internally in the GIS as a means of speeding up certain geometric operations such as search of nearest neighbor. They are the basis of some of the more powerful methods for generalizing vector databases. Thyssen polygons are created by dividing line joining nearest neighbor points, drawing perpendicular bisector through these lines, and then using bisectors to assemble polygon edges. Means, first of all the points are joined together by using the Delaunay's triangulation, and thereafter the perpendicular bisector of each of the triangle edges is drawn. And if you extend these perpendicular bisector, you will find that a polygon will get formed around each of the sample point like this. Okay. So all the location within a given Thyssen polygon have an identical value for the z variable. Z may be elevation, size, production in pounds per acre, or any other variable we may measure at a point. Thyssen polygons define a region around each sample point that have a value equal to the value at the nearest sample point. Thyssen polygons are exact method of interpolation that assumes that the values of the unsampled locations are equal to the value of the nearest sample point. This is a local interpolator because global characteristics of the data exert no influence on the interpolation method. This is also an aberrant method of interpolation as sharp boundaries are present within the interpolated polygons. Okay. So this one is about the Thyssen polygon. So let's see how the Thyssen polygons are created. Okay, so in the input, I'm taking this one. Okay. See, as you can see on the screen this time, that around every point a polygon is created. Okay. Now, if I see the value inside any of the polygon, okay, I am assigning the color according to the property. On the basis of elevation again. You can see this one. So what will be the value inside every polygon? What will be the elevation value for this polygon?
Same value.
Yes. See the value of this particular point. So site name is Red Hill. Elevation is 677 for this point. If I click on this polygon, see, elevation is again 677. Basically, this whole polygon is having the same elevation, same ozone concentration as that of this particular sample point. So this is what the Thyssen polygon is. In case of Thyssen polygon, first of all, means you are seeing the final output of the Thyssen polygon because software is performing the rest of the operation in the background. But basically what happens in Thyssen polygon, first of all the points are joined together by a straight line. Okay. Usually Delaunay's triangulation is used for that purpose. Thereafter, a perpendicular bisector will be created or it will be drawn around the line. And when that perpendicular bisector is extended, it will automatically form a polygon like this, as it is given on the screen around each of the sample point. Okay. So whatever the value is of the sample point which is falling inside that polygon, the same value is assigned to the whole polygon. Now coming to that classification, whether this is a local interpolation or a global interpolation. So this one is a local interpolation or a global interpolation? Anyone? कौन सा इंटरपोलेशन लग रहा है आपको? लोकल है कि ग्लोबल है?
लोकल.
Yes, correct. This one is the local interpolation. क्यों local interpolation है? Calculated value असाइन हो रही है, वो जितने भी 167 सैंपल्स यहाँ लिए गए हैं उन सबको कंसीडर करके नहीं निकल रही है, बल्कि केवल एक सैंपल पॉइंट को कंसीडर करते हुए निकल रही है। यही तो हो रहा है कि पूरे पॉलीगन को क्या एलिवेशन, क्या ओजोन कंसंट्रेशन मिल रहा है, वही मिल रहा है जो उस पॉइंट का है जो उसके अंदर फॉल हो रहा है ना। इस कारण से ये लोकल मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है, क्योंकि इसमें सारे सैंपल पॉइंट्स को कंसीडर नहीं किया जाता। अगला, ये एग्जैक्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है कि अप्रोक्सीमेट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है? आंसर इज ये एक एग्जैक्ट मेथड ऑफ एग्जैक्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है, क्योंकि हर एक सैंपल पॉइंट से जो आउटपुट लेयर है वो पास हो रही है। नेक्स्ट, ये एब्रप्ट इंटरपोलेशन है कि ग्रेजुअल इंटरपोलेशन है?
एब्रप्ट।
यस, ये एक एब्रप्ट मेथड ऑफ इंटरपोलेशन है, क्योंकि आप देखेंगे कि देखिए यहाँ बाउंड्री के बाद में ऑल ऑफ अ सडन वैल्यू चेंज हो जा रही है। आपको ग्रेजुअल चेंज धीमे धीमे करके ग्रेजुअली चेंज होता हुआ आउटपुट में नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है, बल्कि सडन चेंज यहाँ पर दिखाई दे रहा है। ठीक है, तो इस तरीके से ये थिसन पॉलीगन इंटरपोलेशन में यूज होता है। बहुत ही यूजफुल एनालिसिस है। अगर हम बोले कि अदर देन इंटरपोलेशन तो एक डिस्कशन हो गया, अदर देन इंटरपोलेशन आप इसको कहाँ यूज कर सकते हैं? अदर देन इंटरपोलेशन थिसन पॉलीगन का यूज कहाँ हो सकता है? देखिए, जैसे ही हम बोल रहे हैं आपको कि यहाँ पर हर एक लाइन का परपेंडिकुलर बाइसेक्टर ड्रॉ हो रहा है। परपेंडिकुलर बाइसेक्टर का मतलब से आप क्या समझते हैं कि इस पर्टिकुलर, जैसे कि ये वाली लाइन के लिए देखिए, इसके इस साइड लेफ्ट साइड फॉल होने वाले पॉइंट के लिए, रीजन के लिए ये पॉइंट क्लोजेस्ट होगा, और राइट साइड फॉल होने वाले किसी भी पॉइंट के लिए ये पॉइंट क्लोजेस्ट होगा। अगर आपको किसी भी पॉइंट, सपोज यहाँ पर तो एक इंटरपोलेशन के टर्म में बात हो रही है, अदर देन इंटरपोलेशन हम बात कर रहे हैं कि सपोज ये पॉइंट्स कुछ शॉप को, सपोज कुछ पेट्रोल पंप्स को दिखाते हैं। सो इन पेट्रोल पंप के नियरेस्ट रीजन क्या क्या है? अगर हमें पूरे एरिया को इस तरीके से डिवाइड करना है कि पूरे कैलिफोर्निया स्टेट में 167 पेट्रोल पंप्स हैं, और उन पेट्रोल पंप का जो कैशमेंट एरिया है, या कह सकते हैं कि जो नियरेस्ट, क्या कितना पॉपुलेशन के लिए ये सबसे नजदीकी पेट्रोल पंप होगा, है ना? उसके लिए आप थिसन पॉलीगन बना सकते हैं, क्योंकि थिसन पॉलीगन के अंदर किसी भी पॉइंट के लिए, किसी भी लोकेशन के लिए जो सैंपल पॉइंट है सबसे नजदीकी पॉइंट होता है ना? तो ये थिसन पॉलीगन का यूज इस तरीके के, कोई भी बिजनेस एनालिसिस हो, कहीं पर भी नियरेस्ट वाला एनालिसिस करना है ना? कोई भी एक बोला जाए कि सपोज ये डंपिंग स्टेशन है, इस डंपिंग स्टेशन के अराउंड कितना एरिया है जिसके लिए वो सबसे नजदीकी डंपिंग स्टेशन बनेगा। इस तरीके का कोई भी एनालिसिस करना है तो वहां पर थिसन पॉलीगन को ही लगाया जाता है। ठीक है, थिसन पॉलीगन इसीलिए इंटरपोलेशन में तो यूज होता ही होता है। कभी भी हम किसी चीज का इन्फ्लुएंस एरिया, उसका जो कैशमेंट एरिया, उसको भी हम लोग जब पढ़ते हैं तब इस तरीके का पॉलीगन बनाया जाता है। तो ये इंटरपोलेशन के साथ में ये दूसरे एप्लीकेशंस में भी यूज होता है। अगला है स्पेशल मूविंग एवरेज। बहुत ही सिंपल मेथड है यहाँ पर। इसमें एक कर्नल लिया जाता है, जैसे आप लोग फिल्टरिंग वगैरह पढ़ते होंगे इमेज में, कि उसका एक कर्नल लिया गया, एक विंडो ली गई, उस विंडो के अंदर जितने भी सैंपल पॉइंट्स आ रहे हैं उनका एवरेज उसके सेंटर पे असाइन कर दिया जाता है। ठीक है, दोनों ही तरह से, चाहे रास्टर डेटा हो चाहे वेक्टर डेटा हो, दोनों में ही इसको यूज किया गया है। इसका आउटपुट आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरीके से ये कैलकुलेट होता है। ये स्पेशल मूविंग एवरेज होता है। इसमें प्रॉब्लम केवल तब आती है जब इसके विंडो के अंदर कोई भी पॉइंट फॉल नहीं करता है ना। जब विंडो के अंदर कोई भी पॉइंट फॉल नहीं करता तब प्रॉब्लम आती है। अदरवाइज इस एग्जांपल में आप देख सकते हैं, एक और एग्जांपल है कि किस तरीके से सेंटर पर एग्जिस्टिंग वैल्यूज का एवरेज करके निकाल दिया जा रहा है। उसको क्विकली रीड आउट कर देते हैं। इट इन्वॉल्व्स कैलकुलेटिंग अ वैल्यू फॉर अ लोकेशन based on the range of values attached to neighboring points that fall within a user-defined range. This neighborhood filter is passed systematically across the region of interest, calculating new interpolated values as it goes. This is shown in the diagrammatic form for both vector as well as raster GIS. The sample used to calculate a cell value depend upon the search radius. The radius defines the size of a circle that is centered on each cell. Any sample point found inside the circle are used to interpolate the value for that cell. Points that fall within the circle are averaged. Those outside the circles are ignored. The spatial average method produces a surface that suppresses the value of known data point to reveal global pattern in the data. This is an example of approximate point interpolation method since it does not honor the value of known data points and recalculate the values as its filter passes over them. Okay. So this is about the moving average method. In the next turn, we will take some more interpolation method. One of the very important one is TIN, triangulated irregular network. And that topic is covered under different sections. Means if you go through the books, the topic of the TIN sometimes cover as a separate data type. Sometimes it is considered as an interpolation method. Sometimes it is used to perform some type of terrain analysis. So there are different ways of using TIN data. We will learn about the TIN in the next turn. And thereafter, we will learn about the kriging. And finally, we will learn digital terrain modeling, a very interesting topic in which you will learn the different things like hillshade analysis, then there is what is the contour, what is the vertical profiling. All these things will be covered in the next turn under the digital terrain modeling. So thank you so much. That's it from my side for today. The class is over for now.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, there was a notice on the Dean Academics. Ma'am, there was 25 marks for Viva and 25 marks for quiz. Means there will be no subjective type exam.
I have to check because I didn't come across through that notice, and I will confirm the same on Friday. What will be the mode of examination, whether there is any notice or not, I will confirm it on Friday session.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome to all.